vélo partiront sur permis et tous les passagers devraient déjà être à bord.
Yo, it's good, bro. How are you?
Good, man. How are you?
How was the flight?
Good, man. Amazing, bro. Amazing.
How was the show?
The show was crazy, bro. I gotta take you next time.
Yeah, I'm coming next time, 100%.
Let's go back to Brampton.
Every time I come back home, I can't help but remember what it was like the first time I came here. Everything was completely different than it is today. The city, the people, the culture, even myself. No one could have planned this out. There was no blueprint. It was just learn as you go, and that's exactly what I did. Like a lot of people, my story begins somewhere else, far away from where I am now. I was born in Thailand, but my parents moved to the Bay Area when I was just a kid. That's where I grew up. That's where I discovered hip-hop.
Thanks for everybody who got the California state of mind. It's gonna be proper. So anyways, check out how we record. It's Young FATEH, Big Bird Studio. Holla at your boy.
Any hot beat, anything that came on BET, 106 in Park.
Jim Jones beat, that was the first
Jim
one.
Jones. Remember the Texas?
Did.
Remember the Texas when like the South had a big upbringing, Mike Jones, all that, and we would just jump on these beats. We'd be like, "Yo, what are you doing tonight?" Probably usually on a Friday. Come to the studio. We'll go to my house. He'll say what's up to my mom and dad. My dad would be all mad happy, and it was him and like a couple of our friends, and we just sit there and would write to these instrumentals, and then we'd make our own versions, Bay Area type versions to those songs. And yeah, we'd just be jumping on songs all the time.
A lot of people in the Bay Area, at one point, everybody wanted to be a rapper. Everybody wanted to do this. Everybody said they were a rapper. Mm-hmm. And there wasn't a lot of Punjabi people around, so I thought they really stood out. So when he said he was a rapper, you know, dealing with a lot of criticism, a lot of all that stuff, I don't know if it hit him and, you know, made it hard for him, but for him to really fit in and elevate, it was always like proving something more, and you could always see the passion and the heart he was developing.
Growing up in the Bay, I was surrounded by hip-hop and rap culture. I learned about it from the older kids in my neighborhood and took to it very early on. I fell in love with it. I didn't just subscribe to the music, but to the culture as a whole. I talked the talk, I wore the clothing, I knew the music, but most importantly, I understood the culture. I lived and breathed hip-hop. When I started making music, there were no South Asian rappers. There was no one out there representing us, who looked like I did, rapped in a way that made it our own, and definitely no one was mixing the cultures yet. When I left the Bay for Brampton, that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted to become something new, to do something that no one had done yet.
Mondale, what's good, bro?
That's real, bro. That's the real one, bro. He's coming back brand new, bro. Once we moved to Brampton, I was exposed to way more Punjabi culture and people than I ever had before. It was an explosion around me. So many people who were just like me. It was actually overwhelming at first. As time naturally went on, I started learning the nuances of the culture, understanding what Punjabi people liked and disliked. I became more involved in the community, and my Punjabi got stronger. Everything was influencing my music, and that wave of exposure started to shape my sound and my brand. I also saw how there were so many kids just like me who enjoyed Punjabi music and rap music simultaneously. I saw an untapped market, an opportunity to be the front runner to bring those two cultures together. But being the first to do anything is always tough. My first few years here were isolating. I didn't know a lot of people, and the winters were cold and gloomy. It left me with no option but to create. I would work on music and hours would just fly by. I started to take myself more seriously. When I finally started putting my music online, I received a lot of pushback from my own community. Most people felt like rap music couldn't be done by one of us. Even though a lot of fans outside of the culture saw that I was doing something different, to my own people, I was a poser, a wannabe. After one of my videos went viral, the cyberbullying got out of control. People online were relentless. I became an easy target for them. It even started to bleed into my real life, and friends started to view me in a negative way. Everyone saw me as this joke, and it started to eat me alive. I thought I was done, that I should just quit music and do something else. But I also had this feeling deep down that was driving me forward. It was to prove them wrong. किथे
कुट दे
cinnamon
cinnamon cinnamon भी पा दे इलायची पाई है
मैं तोड़ दी cinnamon कुटना कि उदा ही
उदा ही कर दे
ओके इलायची मैं उदा कुट दूंगा थोड़े पा दो
चलो. His dad, when he was only 11 or 12 years old, when he saw that he has passion for music, he used to take him to a studio where a guy used to record music.
We found some guy who's looking for a rapper, and I had emailed him, and he had no idea I was only like 12 years old. He thought I was like a 19-year-old guy or something. I showed up with my dad, and I ended up recording a bunch of my, my raps at that time. And my dad took me to that spot, and I remember distinctly him sitting there and then me recording for the very first time in a studio. I think, looking back at it, like they could have stopped it early. They could have been like, nope. No way, we're not funding this. You know what I mean? You have to figure it out. You're not doing this, right? They could have stopped it. And I've had people say that, my parents, like, at all, like, they don't even let me go on the internet. So, like, sometimes, because they are very scared of, I guess, the arts or the music. So my dad was, like she said before, my dad was super supportive. Like, I'm saying, like, grade 8, grade 9, he was like, he bought me a mic from a record store, and he bought me turntables for one of my birthdays. He bought me like a bunch of rap albums for one of my birthdays, and hooked me up with a studio before people actually had, like, not a studio, sorry, a computer that can record, like mic and the interface and everything. Like, I'm talking early, before people even had internet at their house and around my school. So just having that level of support was incredible. I'm sure that had a lot to do with it. My mom was always skeptical because she used to watch MTV and was like, you're not like that. You're not going to be like that. But she didn't stop me.
when he told me that he is singing in a Bollywood film, so that was a big thing. Means I could not even believe that he could go that far, because that's not easy to go to Bollywood, right? So that made me serious. That I said yes. Now I think he's not going to stop anymore. So he will excel more.
South Asian families, because we're mostly all first generation in Canada, America, not UK, but Canada, America for sure. Our parents have left their families, everything back home to come here and have a better life. I know that sounds really cliche, but it's true. Like, they're working hard jobs at factories, retail jobs, all that stuff to make sure that our lives are better. So they just don't want us to kind of live that struggle life. They want us to be well off and successful because they've had to do so much just to come here and just to set a base here. So I think that's why they're like, arts, yeah, no, right? No, you should get into doctor, lawyer, engineer. And that's because what they know as a successful route.
All of us here collectively, we all had a lot of love for Fateh, but beyond having love for Fateh, we believed in Fateh because we saw within him something really special. We saw within him someone who was able to bring the culture and connection to our roots, but communicate in a way that related to people who were born and brought up in Canada and North America, really. And that was something that's really special about him. And having a personal relationship, he went through a time where it's kind of rough, and I think it's safe to say you faced a lot of hate.
There's lots of hate.
Lots of hate. He faced a lot of hate. And we all felt hurt when we saw Fateh going through that hate because we knew Fateh's capable of so much more.
It was all about stripping it down and building it back up. But really, it was just about Fateh. You're a funny, charismatic, really talented guy. All of your shenanigans, the way that you're dressing or not dressing, and all these other side antics are actually in the way of your art.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, all we did, like Grethen was saying, was just make mention of those things that we noticed. And we're like, yo, this ain't you. This is something you're trying. Like, why are you wearing a fake Gucci belt? Like, come on, bro. Like, that's not gonna.
We go there. Take it there. Take it there. It's the roast of Fateh.
It's not even the roast, but it's just like
I was trying to go there. I can't keep it good, man.
With the vodka, bro. You talking about the vodka?
It's like questioning the intent, right?
Yeah.
It's like, yo, you have a fake Gucci belt. It's cool. Fake it till you make it. We're all there. But it's like, what does that mean to you, right? And it's like, let's do stuff where you don't have to worry about this.
Yeah.
And when you have it, it's for fun, not out of like insecurity. And that's all it was.
I think the main takeaway was how do I become the most authentic version of me through my music? And a lot of it, like you said, was me emulating whoever, Lil Wayne at that time or whoever it was, and emulating, and then me looking the way I look. That's not usually the best case, and that's why I was catching a lot of flack. But I had no idea why. Like, I literally had no idea. I remember Harmon saying to me, well, do you actually want to do this? I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this. Then, okay, why aren't you taking this more seriously? Why aren't your videos better? Why aren't your, your pictures better? Isn't everything better? Like, you're a student. I remember you saying this. You're a student / rapper. If you're going to be a rapper. Or if you're going to be a student, then be a student. Like, you know what I mean? Don't post pictures of you at York. Yeah, just got lunch. And then the next one is like a video. So that was like a big thing. You guys don't understand how pinnacle that moment was.
Like, the obstacles that Fateh faced initially was literally from the Punjabi music scene, you can't look like this and rap.
Yeah.
Like, he faced that. And you sing about that, you perform about that, you rap about that rather. And that was, I think, the most groundbreaking aspect of your achievement, that you proved them all wrong.
Yeah.
Like, you literally, and when you say it in your music, it's such a, such a proud moment to be like, they said I couldn't do it, looking how I looked, and you did it, right? Like, that's such a, beautiful way to celebrate who you are.
Yeah. Initially, like in the Punjabi music scene, where you think Punjabi, Sikh, when I first started, you're like, okay, cool, like they're gonna accept you and everything's gonna be good. And then I started noticing they're not putting me in these videos, they're not putting my name in the titles. And then slowly, Zeus was like, yeah, they kind of don't like your image. I'm like, this is where our people are from.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean? Like, we all look like this. And they're like, yeah, but they don't think it's gonna sell on TV or whatever. And then, Zeus being the main guy really pushing for it because he had everything to do that. Yeah, the leverage, and he pushed for it and it worked, So it's not even in, mainstream out here. It was even in India, in Punjab.
So we're the first generation of 6 Punjabis who are born and brought up in Canada. And when we growing up, we didn't have role models like FATEH today. So when we were growing up, we didn't have people we could look to and we could see ourselves. We didn't see ourselves represented in music, in politics, in culture. We didn't see ourselves represented anywhere. So when you're growing up in that context, it's hard to find that inspiration of who to aspire to be, right? You like that. There's something strong in role models, and you know it can't be limited to just being a role model, but you need strong role models. So with FATEH, that's when we talk about that path being unpaved. He is the first of his kind to look how he's looking and be successful in this music scene, in this music space. And so for now, for the next generation, they are building and working upon the work that he already did, right? They're building upon his shoulders, if you will. And so they now look towards people, and you see a whole new young generation of rappers.
Yep.
Because they're like, yo, FATEH did it, we can do it. And that's why across the board, when you see this culture coming out of Brampton, when you see the Rupikors inspiring a whole next generation of poets, FATEH is inspiring the next generation of rappers, of performers. Jagmeet Singh inspiring the next generation of politicians. Like you see a lot of beautiful things coming up out of Brampton, but it's because they had the courage to be the first ones to do it.
After years of being harassed and hated, I had to confront criticisms and take a deeper look at myself to figure out why I wasn't being taken seriously. I realized that I wasn't being the most authentic version of myself, and I wanted to change that. I was lucky to have so many people around me who saw beyond the hate, who supported me and wanted to see me succeed. We all knew there was something there, but everything else needed to be more refined, less in your face, and more approachable. It all started with a name change, Young FATEH to Just FATEH. I stopped antagonizing the haters, started studying lyrics and song structures, found a turban style that complemented my own look. I elevated myself, my music videos, my artwork, and started to take everything more seriously. It was a major turning point, and without these people, I might have given up. Everything felt so impossible until I saw these other creatives and entrepreneurs make it possible for themselves. Seeing how hard everyone else was working really opened my eyes. One day, I got this call. It was a UK number that I didn't recognize. I picked up, and it was Zeus. Dr. Zeus is a super producer who's been around the UK Bhangra scene for decades. I was already a huge fan of his, so I couldn't believe he was calling me. He basically found me on YouTube and wanted to collaborate. He told me he would be sending me a lot of music and would use whatever he felt was strongest. That moment was scary. I was feeling a lot of pressure. I had just come off so much hate and failure. Everything was so fragile. This opportunity was my one shot to get it right, and I needed to kill it. Zeus sent me so much music to feature on, I didn't have time to overthink what I was doing. I just kept writing and recording and sending him as much music as I could, and he kept guiding me along the way. Through Zeus, I started getting placements on huge songs in the UK and India almost overnight. I was getting massive radio play overseas and flown out for sold-out shows and big-budget music videos. It was like landing in a completely different world, again. The first time I landed in Punjab, India, I couldn't walk the streets without someone knowing who I was, saying they saw me on TV or they loved my music. It was just as surreal to come back home and still have a normal life. But I still wanted to push myself a bit further. What I was doing with Zeus was Punjabi pop music that was driven for the radio. I needed to solidify myself as a solo artist and go back to my hip-hop roots. I started working on my sound again, taking the Punjabi language and the nuances of the culture and mixing it with hip-hop and rap instrumentation. Infusing the two distinct cultures by blending the languages together, my debut album, Bring It Home, defined this fusion and solidified my identity as a solo artist. I finally started to hear myself here in Canada and all over North America. I was meeting fans who loved my solo music, and it was becoming a part of their lives and a part of their culture. I wasn't a YouTube rapper or just a feature on someone else's song. I was finally my own artist. I chose the name FATEH because in Punjabi it means victory, to win at all costs. Sometimes you just have to overcome yourself.
DJ ਗਾਣਾ ਉੱਚੀ ਕਰੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੰਦ ਪਾਉਣਾ ਹੁਣ ਨਹੀਂ ਪੁੱਛਦੇ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕਦੇ ਤੂੰ ਹੈਗਾ ਕੌਣ ਸਿਕਿਉਰਿਟੀ ਨੇ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਰੋਕਣਾ ਜਦ ਯਾਰ ਮੇਰੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਦੋ ਗੁਣਾ ਜ਼ਰਾ ਸੋਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਮੰਡੀਰ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸ਼ਹਿਰ ਚ ਦੇ ਆਨਾ ਸਾਤੋਂ ਦੂਰ ਹੈ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਕੂਰ ਲੈ ਚਪੇੜਾ ਖਾ ਕੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੋ ਜਾਣਾ ਮਸ਼ਹੂਰ ਤਾਂ ਗੱਡੀ ਚ ਗਾਣੇ ਉੱਚੀ ਉੱਚੀ ਲਾ